Hello and welcome to the Three Roll Podcast. This is your host Danny Ryan, and I'm here with Tommy Ryan, my co-host. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing well. It's a good day to beat up on Georgia Tech.
Oh, you're going to start out this way. Oh, sorry, guys. This is like take two of our podcast because Danny forgot to dial the microphone in the right way, and so it was really dampening what I couldn't, people want to hear your voice sometimes and want to more than hearing mine. And so you've got on a orange shirt, obviously, for the game today.
That's right.
Playing tonight
at Georgia Tech.
At Georgia Tech. We're not, neither one of us is going, we'll watch it on TV, right?
That's right.
There you go.
Hopefully it can stay up.
Yeah. You know what time is it? I guess probably they start around 7 or something like that. Yeah. So, and then the sock check. Let's see.
All right. No sock. Oh, I actually do have socks.
Ooh, yeah. Take off your shoes to see the fanciness. All right. Well done. Looking good. Looking good. And what I wanted to do today was to pick back up. We were talking a couple weeks ago about the practice areas and the service offerings that we have. And we were going through a book that's called How to Write Copy That Sells by Ray Edwards. In the first part of it, we identified sort of the feelings that we want somebody to transition. So going from a point of feeling anxiety to feeling peaceful or whatever it is that we're trying to address. Today, I wanted to talk about who is it exactly that we're talking about addressing. And so who is the person that we're writing this copy for? Who are we trying to target? Who do we typically work with? I think for us, it may be a group of people, but who's the key decision maker involved in these projects? And so I wanted to go through the offerings that we have and try to identify who that person is. And so if we start off with our migrations practice for the Jive migration services, again, that's one where you're moving from complexity to simplicity is typically someone who's trying to save money. They're trying to, a hard cost that's there where they see, Jive and SharePoint / Yammer do some very similar things is, can I save some money by moving, consolidating? And so
also, I think simplicity of when there's mergers and acquisitions taking place.
Absolutely.
And one company has Jive, the other person has SharePoint. And
Yep.
if they decide to consolidate and do it all on SharePoint, then it's a cost and a simplicity of one place to go versus multiple collaboration platforms.
Excellent point. And so typically we're dealing with, in the Microsoft world, they talk about business versus IT and really have those two big buckets. For this, I think I listed the director of IT or the VP of IT, someone at that level who would be making that decision, someone with trying to make some hard cost savings.
Yep.
No problem with that one?
No, I think that is going to be common. I think in organizations that we're typically working with, it's large companies, tens of thousands of people, and the CIO, CTO is not at that level of detail. They are going to say, yes, let's do this project. Okay. But the person that we have to convince is usually someone a level or two below that.
Awesome. The SharePoint migration services for this one, they're trying to stay up on the latest platform. So I find this is, again, it's a director level type of decision, but this falls into, it's either like marketing or corporate communications, whoever it is that might be responsible for the company's intranet would be the person ultimately making the decision.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the typical stakeholder. You might have the CTO in a smaller organization that's been put in charge of, let's get off of this old infrastructure into the newer infrastructure. Ideally, it's driven by a business need. There's a set of departments or groups within the organization that are frustrated with, I want to use the newer stuff. And if they look at what's out there publicly, things like Slack and other social tools, they don't want to be working off of older platforms. They want newer platforms that have the type of collaboration that they're used to. Mm-hmm. and have some options in that collaboration. So those groups are usually forcing the hand of, we need to update our infrastructure. Then the CTO and director of IT might be implementing it. But I think it's healthy if there is someone within the organization that is more the director of collaboration that's behind the initiative, because you're thinking about what problems are we trying to solve versus let's just switch out the infrastructure and think that that's going to create value by just switching out the infrastructure. Nice. And I think if it's approached that way, that it's purely an IT initiative, then it tends to have very low adoption. There's confusion of, you're giving me more stuff. I don't need more stuff. I just need my work to be easier to do, more effective. And I want tools to enable me, not tools that to distract me, in a sense.
So the Office 365 dedicated to multi-tenant services, that one's the stuck to free. For that one, I think that's CIO. that's typically the person who is making or trying to make that decision is involved. I know probably more than the other ones, the CIO would be involved. I think the ultimate decision, though, would fall to you. You're much closer to these than I am. Who would you?
It's going to be the CIO, CIO, CTO. Okay. That they're looking at, cutting costs, or they're looking at strategically, we want to be in a multi-tenant environment, and we're comfortable with that, and they're fine with going to not a dedicated environment anymore, but more of the multi-tenant environment.
The next one, so we're jumping over to the portals practice. This one is SharePoint intranet services. This one sort of, for me, it falls underneath the same as sort of SharePoint migration services. This one I'm focusing in on sort of who is it that who owns the intranet. So I would almost go back to the director of collaboration as the one, or whoever it is that's responsible for the intranet would be the one that's going to be making the decision on this.
Yeah. I agree.
And then I'm just writing these down here. I'll take a picture of this at the end, and we'll post this up with the blog post as well. For extranet, this is going from insecure to security. Who's it that typically? Is it the same person that's doing the intranets as the extranets?
That's what we've seen, because it's it's sort of a person that owns a platform, and the director of collaboration usually is tied to SharePoint in terms of owning the platform.
Okay. The other services that we have here, I mean, there are ones that have to do with workflow, with search, with social. I think they all sort of will fall into the same thing. The only one that I know that might be a little bit different is business intelligence. For the BI projects, is that still the same person?
Well, I think people that are driving BI are more of the finance and accounting teams, anyone that's looking at analytics, maybe someone like director of operations, folks that need to take data and make decisions based on data. Yeah. And a very common one is finance. Also, I think a CEO is going to care about BI because they want to have that top level view of the organization and drill down. And so I think across the board, a lot of the VPs are going to want to have a feedback loop to say, all right, we're doing these initiatives within the organization. What's the impact? Are we seeing the numbers move when we turn certain dials?
Awesome. Moving out of portals and into app dev. So first one, application development services, moving from disjointed to integrated. This one, I've seen this title, which is the director of apps or the VP of apps. So somebody who's responsible inside the organization for all of the line of business apps. That seemed to be the person who we're trying to target with this.
Yeah, I think, someone that might be the director of special projects. Sometimes you have people that are kind of in that role that they're, in a sense, doing business development by going after new ventures. The folks that worked at Polycom were working with someone that was kind of in that role of, I'm out there building partnerships and understand the ecosystem and making investments that put us in a direction that's going to be healthy for our organization or our product line. So the director of apps, I think, is that, sometimes that person, but they might be just working with what they know within the organization. A lot of times we're connected to the people that are saying we need to reach out and go beyond, our known ecosystem, and we need to integrate with different ecosystems so we can kind of tie into that customer base.
Yeah. And I think for us, traditionally, the director of apps is very used to using internal resources. So we haven't had a whole lot of interaction with the director of apps because they're so used to, or if they outsource thing, they'll go to low costs outsourcing and just go have more of that type of approach to things where maybe a special project or something that comes up would be something that they would look for outside help, or maybe somebody who's a technology specialist in a certain area that we have expertise in. This next one is product development services, and that one I put the VP of business development, or I've seen business development director. And this is one where it's the type of company also comes into play, which is for an ISV. For folks who don't know, an ISV is an independent software vendor. So this is someone who has a primary output of, they create products for the marketplace. And so for a lot of the connectors that we created, those fall underneath this product development services. You don't have to have anything to add to it if you don't.
All right. Good. Yeah. I'm good.
The other two, the Trove. So I put Trove services, from frustration to productive. And then the other one is channel services. For these, what I've found is that they're the Salesforce admin.
Right, because they're in the App Exchange.
They're in the App Exchange. They're looking for solutions to this. So when the copy that's in there should be targeted, it's either the Office 365 admin or the Salesforce admin, because they're often presenting these solutions to their teams to say, oh, we need to do integration between Salesforce and Office 365. Hey, I found this cool app. This is what it does. And I think, they probably pull in a larger group that ultimately makes the decision. But a lot of the copy, I think, that I try to target is to an admin, a Salesforce admin. Last one, sustainment, going from overwhelmed to supported. And that one I put, it could be the CTO, CIO level. It could be, find that it's a lot of times whoever's in charge of operations.
Right.
So we've built something for them, and then we need this to have, be sustained long term. Who's in charge of operations for their organization? Or it might fall underneath some sort of other, a VP or director of a certain line of business. It could fall underneath them as well.
Yeah, and in some cases where we've got a lot of our sustainment is through a governance board that says, if you're going to put solutions that are customized into our SharePoint environment, you need to be on retainer in a sense to maintain those applications, because you have the domain knowledge of what was built, versus the operations group is going to just keep the lights on in terms of the infrastructure in place and the SharePoint environment healthy. But if there's anything specific to the application that needs to be supported, they want us on the hook. And so we're contracting with, say, a business stakeholder that sees value in keeping that application healthy over time.
Last one here, and I think we want to move this from sustainment service to, I think it's a portal service. I think it was been going back and forth as far as roadmap services, because there's been some internal discussions about that. But who do you think, who's ultimately buying this roadmap services from us? Who is the person pulling us in to do that?
A director of collaboration, a CTO, someone that is responsible for the SharePoint portal, So we can help them have vision to how they onboard different services within, say, Office 365 over time, have a vision of architecture of how do you pull in the different elements of a total solution from Azure to Office 365 to hybrid to search, all the different elements that come into play for a strategy. And we'll layer in, what are the business value solutions that get put in place over time that allow you to mature with the platform. So that's usually a director level, or smaller companies, the CTO, to help them create that vision.
Great. So next step from here, this is very helpful. Going from here is we want to talk about, they have in the book sort of amplify. So what happens if this problem isn't solved? And so the next step that I would like to go is, again, now that we've got sort of the role that's commonly we're looking at, what is it, how are they impacted when they don't go and solve this problem, or like most people, or if they make no decision at all, how does that impact them? And so our next step in this discovery process, or whatever journey that we're going through, is sort of talking through that. What does that look like if they don't find a solution to the problem, or they don't do anything at all?
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen and just going through this journey that we have, where we're looking at all the services. And you probably think about, if you're a services company as well, sort of doing something similar when you look at what your offerings are. Appreciate everybody joining us on this journey. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.